I don't expect everyone to believe what I'm about to say. It's the kind of thing that if you've never experienced anything like it, you'll chalk it up to fantasy, imagination, or outright lies. But I know what happened to me out there. It's as real as the ground we walk on, and I've carried it with me every day since. My name is Travis Walton, and on November 5th, 1975, my life changed in ways I still don't fully understand. I've told my story countless times, but even now, the details sometimes haunt me, creeping into my thoughts when I least expect them. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you what happened that night in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest in Arizona. We were deep in the woods, miles from civilization, with only the trees and wildlife for company. That day, we had worked late into the evening, and by the time we packed up our tools, the sun had already set. It was just another day on the job, or so I thought. As we drove out of the forest in Mike Rogers' old pickup truck, something caught my eye through the trees. It was a strange light, hovering just above the treetops. At first, I thought it might be a fire, maybe a reflection from the setting sun, but the more I looked, the more I realized this was something else entirely. "Hey, Mike, slow down," I said, leaning forward from the passenger seat. The rest of the crew, 6 guys in total, were crammed into the cab and the bed of the truck. "Do you see that?" We all peered out the windows, and the truck slowed to a crawl. The light was getting closer, and soon it became clear that this wasn't anything natural. It wasn't a fire, and it definitely wasn't the sun. It was something bright, unnaturally bright, and it hovered above the trees in a way that didn't make sense. "What the hell is that?" one of the guys in the back muttered. The truck came to a stop, and I jumped out without thinking. I was drawn to the light, like something was pulling me toward it. I could hear the guys yelling at me to get back in the truck, but I didn't listen. I took a few steps forward, and that's when I saw it, clear as day. Hovering about 15 feet above the ground was a saucer-shaped object, glowing with an intense blue-white light. It was about 20 feet across, maybe larger, and it made this strange humming sound that sent chills down my spine. I've seen helicopters, planes, all kinds of things in the sky, but this was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I should have been terrified, and maybe a part of me was, but I couldn't stop moving toward it. The closer I got, the more I felt this strange energy in the air, like static electricity buzzing around me. I could feel the hairs on my arms standing up, and the hum grew louder. Behind me, I could hear Mike and the guys shouting, telling me to get the hell out of there, but I ignored them. I was fixated on the craft. Just as I was about to step closer, a beam of light shot out from the underside of the object, hitting me square in the chest. The next thing I remember is complete darkness. When I woke up, I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was lying on a cold metallic surface, and the air smelled sterile, like a hospital. My vision was blurry, and I could barely make out the shapes around me. But as my eyes adjusted, I saw them, beings unlike anything I could have imagined. They were small, maybe 4 feet tall, with smooth, pale skin. Their heads were oversized compared to their bodies, and their eyes were huge, black and shiny, like they were absorbing all the light in the room. They had no mouths, no noses, just those massive eyes staring down at me as I lay helpless on the table. I tried to move, to scream, but I couldn't. It was like my body wasn't my own. I was paralyzed, completely at their mercy. They didn't speak, at least not in any way I could understand, but I could feel their presence in my mind. It was like they were probing my thoughts, searching for something deep inside me. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like they were peeling back the layers of my mind to get to something I didn't even know existed. The room I was in was dimly lit, with metallic walls that curved around me. There were no windows, no doors that I could see, just the table I was strapped to and the creatures standing around me. They moved with an eerie precision, their long, thin fingers touching my skin as if they were studying me. Then the real horror began. They started experimenting on me. I don't know how else to describe it. They inserted strange instruments into my body, things I couldn't see but could feel. The pain was unbearable, and yet I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I could only lie there as they poked and prodded, their cold, expressionless faces hovering inches from mine. I don't know how long I was there. Time didn't seem to exist in that place. Every second felt like an eternity, and I thought I was going to die. I remember thinking that this was it, that I would never see my family again, that I would die on this strange ship, and no one would ever know what had happened to me. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it was over. I woke up lying on the cold, hard ground. The night sky was above me, the stars shining down like nothing had ever happened. I was disoriented, confused. My body ached, and I was freezing. I had no idea where I was, but it wasn't the forest where I'd been taken. I was miles away from the logging site. At first, I thought I had only been gone for a few hours. I figured the guys must have come back for me, but when I made my way to a nearby road and flagged down a passing car, I found out the truth. I hadn't been gone for hours. I had been gone for 5 days. My family had reported me missing, and the authorities had searched the forest, but there was no trace of me. My crew, Mike and the guys, they were questioned, even accused of foul play. No one believed their story about the UFO, and they thought they had something to do with my disappearance. When I finally made it back home, I was in a daze. The doctors couldn't explain what had happened to me. I was malnourished and dehydrated, but otherwise unharmed. Physically, anyway. But mentally, I was shattered. I kept having flashes of memory, fragments of what had happened on the ship. The beings, their cold, unfeeling eyes, the way they poked and prodded me like I was some kind of lab rat. And the worst part? The missing time. I couldn't account for the 5 days I was gone. It was like they had erased it from my mind. For weeks, I was bombarded with questions by the media, by investigators, by skeptics who thought I was lying. But I knew the truth. I had been taken, experimented on, and returned. And for reasons I'll never fully understand, they let me go. Over the years, I've learned to live with what happened, but I still don't have all the answers. I don't know why they chose me or what they were looking for. I don't even know if they'll come back. But one thing's for sure, what happened to me that night was real. As real as the ground we walk on. And no matter how much time passes, I'll never forget the feeling of lying helpless on that table, staring into the eyes of something not of this world. The world may never fully believe my story, but I don't need them to. I know what happened. I know what I saw, and I'll carry that with me for the rest of my life.